Hello, everybody. First, before I get started, I just want to say love and blessings to everyone who is experiencing hardship or challenges at this time. And I just wanted to put a reminder for self-care. It's very important right now that we really take good care of ourselves. And if you can, reach out to friends, family, or healthcare practitioners, as well as coaches or healers, and get some support if that's what you need. So remember to take really good care of yourself. Now let's talk about this upcoming new moon, which will be exact on March 24th at 5:28 a.m. East Coast time in the US, which is New York time, and 9:28 a.m. London time. And this new moon will take place in 4 degrees of Aries. And so this marks the beginning of a new moon cycle, of course. And anything brand new that gets started in the next 2 weeks has a chance to get off to a really good start because Aries has sort of like a starting energy to it. Now, as always with the new moons, it is an introverted time. We go within to learn what we wish to align ourselves with for the next 28 days. So as best as you can, really tap into your inner knowingness, your intuitiveness, and really get present to what it is that you're trying to connect to for the next 28 days. We will also talk about setting intentions and the best times to do so towards the end of this video, so stay tuned for that. And also take advantage of the timestamps that I've created, that I've also added to the description part of the video, below the video, in case you want to watch the video in shorter sequences. And feel free to, skip to different places in the video if something's more interesting to you than other things. All right, so the new moon in fast-paced, enthusiastic, and courageous Aries asks us to connect to our personal goals and get very clear on what we want to create over the next 28 days. So this is kind of an action-oriented new moon. With the focus on ourselves, and we want to kind of speed things up a little bit. We might be a little bit impatient, and it's a sort of like do now, think later energy. So this could be good or bad. Aries is the first sign of the zodiac, right? So it represents new beginnings, initiations, breaking new ground, birthing new forms. And the Aries new moon is therefore especially fertile. It's an especially fertile time for seeding new projects and directions. So if there's anything around the new moon that you feel you want to get started with, and don't do it before the new moon. Do it literally like at the time of the full moon or right after, to just get present to what it is that you want to get started with. And when we get started with new things, when we go into new directions, when we have new projects, we can't always know what will happen when we do that. And so something that we've never done before or something that's completely new to us can also, of course, stir up insecurities and nervousness in us. And sometimes it can create plain fear or even panic. So depending on what that new thing is, right? Because people are creatures of habit. They like to stay in their routines or in the things that they feel comfortable with, in their comfort zones, right? Now, Aries is not that sign that is about comfort zones. It's about stepping out of your comfort zone. So it is ruled by Mars, Aries, and so it corresponds with the quest to develop courage. Because, of course, when we step out of our comfort zone, we do need courage for that, right? And it's not about not having fear. It's not about being fearless. It's just about the conscious choice to act in spite of fear. And, some people call that also the warrior energy, right? Like a warrior knows what's at stake and that, it's sensible to be scared, but at the same time, you still go there, you still do it. So one of the many ways we can demonstrate courage is to allow ourselves to be in the condition of not knowing or beginner's mind. So for some of you who are yoga practitioners, you might know the expression beginner's mind. It's literally just doing something in such a way like you've never done it before, right? And that's when we're more present. When we're doing something as if we're doing it for the first time, we get very present, and the creative potential is much more heightened. So what you can ask yourself with this new moon is, where could I bring a beginner's mind to the table? Where can I access beginner's mind in my life? And where do I need to let go of needing to know everything before I begin? And of course, that's a really fantastic question if you are in the process of starting something new, right? Where do I need to let go of needing to know everything before I begin? Now, if you want to have access to the new moon questions from this video, because there's going to be a bunch to come, if you want to have access to that in writing, and you want to also have access to the full moon videos every month that happen, around the time of the full moon, feel free to check out the various levels of membership that are available on my website at astrologercoach.com. And if you're already a member, check your membership portal by signing into your account on the website, and you will find all my posts inside the My Content tab. And the new moon questions are available via the New Moon in Aries article, and that will be pretty much available around the same time as the video. Now, back to the new moon. This new moon is special in the sense that it aligns with Chiron in Aries. Pretty exact. It's like a very close conjunction. And so this really presents an opportunity to share our individual approach towards gentler leadership, and to inspire others to engage in a healing process around the masculine yang energy. And to do some healing around physical, sexual, or spiritual wounds that allow ourselves to be human while on our path to wholeness, and where we're seeking sort of like a larger purpose for life. So it's really about the healing of the masculine, right? And when I say masculine, I'm not just talking about the gender of masculine, obviously. I'm also talking about, just the doing energy, the action-oriented energy, the assertion energy, right? Anything that's connected to the masculine archetype. So we may feel more sensitive and insecure with this new moon about what we identify with and around our ability to be assertive. And so this gives us the opportunity to give ourselves some compassion and acceptance and nurturing in the face of our sensitivities and our limitations that we're currently experiencing. So it's very important to move towards compassion, to move towards understanding, to move towards being kind and gentle with yourself. Because there is an inner child energy, because the Chiron energy is also connected to the wounded inner child. There's a wounded inner child energy that can go into like a fearful place or into a panicked place. So we want to protect that inner child, and we want to soothe that inner child. Now we're being invited to forgive ourselves for our own humanness as well. So if something shows up where, we get triggered, for example, with Chiron, that can happen, we're really invited to forgive ourselves for our own humanness and open our hearts. This is very important, to just kind of open our hearts. Indeed, we are invited to embrace all of who we are, included our physical and emotional body. So we might experience some physical stuff, we might experience some emotional stuff, and so it's very important to just keep embracing whatever shows up. And so if you want to be fully functioning in this world, if you want to create a world that supports all living things equally, it is in our interest to really keep embracing all these different parts of ourselves. It's really, Chiron is very much about a holistic approach, right? Which means we're embracing all of it, whole, right? Holistic. Now, our assertiveness and leadership abilities are an important part of who we are. And if we have been suppressing them or denying that we have them, this would be a really great time to stop doing that. So really take a look at where can you be more assertive? Where can you step more into a leadership position? But leadership meaning, from a place of inspiration, right? So ask yourself, in what ways could I be more conscious of my own personal healing journey, right? So being assertive around your own healing journey. And then could I give myself permission to be fully human and to be insecure, to be sensitive, to be vulnerable? Is that a possibility? Could I give myself permission to do that? And I know this is sometimes difficult. It's difficult sometimes for us to go to those places because these are places that when we were children were maybe not places that were always empowering and that felt good to us. And not even only as children, but also, growing up and as young adults. So it's important that we try to embrace some of the stuff that has been feeling uncomfortable to us in the past, because the discomfort is just the memory connected to what was. But in the present moment, we can actually make a much more powerful choice in which we can give ourselves permission to connect that in a compassionate, kind way. So could I give myself permission to be fully human, to be insecure, to be sensitive, to be vulnerable? And how could a shift in perspective around leadership serve me at this time? And what gifts might a sensitive leader or an unusual hero be able to bring to us at this time? And so we want to kind of investigate, what is leadership for us? Because leadership is something that has a lot of meanings, a lot of different meanings for a lot of different people. And so one of the things we want to take a look at is, when you're being different, when you're being insecure, when you're being sensitive, to make sure that you know that there's no shame in that. There's no shame in feeling those things or experiencing those things. If that is what shows up, that is what shows up. And that's perfect then. Anything that shows up is already perfect because that's why it's there. And so we need to kind of ask ourselves, can we be assertive and kind to ourselves, right? And with other people. And not just with the people that we love, but also publicly as well, right? Because often when we go into these insecure, sensitive, different places, we tend to keep those things very private. We keep that to, experiencing that at home with people that we trust, that we feel safe with, with family, with partners. But is this something that we can also, allow ourselves to experience publicly, or give ourselves permission to be that publicly? And what if the term sensitive leader meant strong leader? And what if only an unusual hero could bear unusual gifts? So again, with these questions, I want to remind you that this is not for you to sit down and answer them as I pose the questions. It's really more an investigation into your intuitive knowingness. It's like posing the questions and then allowing the answers to come to you. So you can do this in a form of journaling on the questions. You can also do this via meditation. You can, just allow yourself to kind of like sit there and contemplate some of these questions and just see what comes, if the answers actually show up and come to you. But you want to kind of stay very sort of heart-centered with this practice and really see it as sort of like an investigation rather than a need to answer a question. Now, Chiron in Aries is all about our journey towards a healthy sense of identity, independence, and willpower. So as we travel this path, we bring progressively more and more respect to ourselves and others. And this is really about the healthy masculine, right? Like at the holistic masculine, approaching it from a holistic place, spiritual, mental, emotional, physical, energetic, all of it. Now, we're definitely urged to become wise, peaceful warriors who can stand watch over the well-being of all concerned. And the questions that you can ask yourself here is, what is the next step towards becoming an increasingly healthy, strong, curious and flexible person, and one who is not afraid to pursue personal goals and desires, no matter how different your methods from traditional approaches. And this is something to remember too with Chiron, is that it's all about finding your own path, your own methods, your own way, that might be different from what the social norm looks like or what the traditional approach looks like. So you really don't want to be comparing yourself with the norm or with other people. You want to really tune into yourself and see what is it that I can do here that supports how different I am. And then also, what's the next step towards becoming this strong, curious, flexible, healthy person who speaks up for what needs healing in our society around the traditional masculine. So how we've previously experienced the traditional masculine archetype. And what role does anger or domination play in the traditional masculine? And how do I personally experience those traits within me? And this is a really important question because, of course, when we hear the words anger and domination, it's not something that most of us go like, oh yeah, that's me, hello, right? Most of us are like, don't want to go there necessarily, or that's not me. And so how do I experience those traits within me is an important question because they are there. Anger is a completely natural, organic human part of ourselves. It's something that just is an emotion, and it's part of the emotional range that's there between being completely happy and peaceful and blissful and being completely apathetic and depressed and not present, right? So, but in between those ranges of emotions, there is everything, and anger is sort of like in the middle. And so, how do I experience those traits within me or outside of me, and when? When do they show up? And so this might be something to journal on, right? Because this might be something we want to give it a little bit more thought and a little bit more attention, especially as we're moving through the new moon phase. Use that time after March 24th to just do some journaling on some of these questions here. There's actually a couple more questions that I have here. So what if, as an experiment in freedom, I let go of my resistance towards the traditional masculine, even its unhealthy expressions, and just for a single brief moment right now? And so the reason why we want to let go of the resistance towards some of these more, unhealthy aspects of the masculine or the darker sides of the masculine is because as long as you resist that side of yourself, it is actually something that will lay dormant and will become, problematic for you, whether that's, in outbursts that we're experiencing where it just bursts out of ourselves, or in the way that it just implodes into ourselves, or we might be experiencing it from the outside world because there's so much buildup internally that we need the mirror or the effect from the outside world to see, how to release and how to connect with that energy. So let me ask those questions again. What if, as an experiment in freedom, I let go of my resistance towards the traditional masculine, even its unhealthy expressions, just for a single brief moment right now? And so just you can actually play with these questions, and you can do this over and over again, as you go through this new moon phase. It might, because something might pop up around the traditional masculine that might be triggering. And as you experience that, you could start asking these questions for yourself and go back to them. All right, so the new moon Chiron alignment in Aries squares the moon nodes in Cancer and Capricorn. And, this square between Chiron and the moon nodes has been present for the past, the past month already. So now we have the new moon in combination with Chiron squaring the Cancer Capricorn, which sort of makes that more intensified. So squares mark a turning point. And this one is a turning point in our collective healing journey, where we must find a balance between inner and outer focus. Taking Aries into account, we can see that we are being invited to actively and courageously heal our inner masculine. And so what you want to ask yourself here is, what does assertiveness look like when it comes from courage and passion rather than fear? And how might we use our masculine energies in a healthy and holistic way? And what are some resolutions I could make towards inner healing, towards wholeness? And what would be a good first step towards one of those resolutions? And how might accepting my current relationship to my masculine side support me on that journey? So we're really getting a sense here that we're really needing to work with the wounded masculine, right? With the wounded masculine, or with the triggers that we experience around the masculine energies. Now, in order to get to a place of greater productivity on an individual and collective level, one where we truly feel self-responsible and capable, we need to first recognize our own limitations and then acknowledge our unique passions and different styles of leadership. So we all have a different way of expressing, ourselves when it comes to the masculine energy, right? So we need to kind of honor that there are differences between people. And so we are experiencing two quite different needs here, pulling us in different directions. On the one hand, we want to enjoy our worldly accomplishments while feeling safely rooted and connected emotionally. And on the other hand, we are asked to heal our insecurities and childhood wounds around identity, independence, and assertion, and to find a holistic way to actively engage in that journey. So, whatever shows up, it's very important for us to kind of like take a look to see, is that connected to our wounds from childhood? Is that connected to something from the past? And we want to ask ourselves, what does holistic leadership mean to me? And where might I locate this energy within me? And if I found it, what might I do with it? And what small or large steps could I take to fully accept and embrace myself and others? And how might compassion play an important role on this healing journey? So self-compassion, of course, is the number one step, because being compassionate with others, that's wonderful, and that's something we definitely also want to do. But if we can't be compassionate with ourselves first, then all the compassion that we give to other people is not as useful. So we really want to make sure that we first give compassion to ourselves. Now, during this time of change, self-care, of course, is definitely worth our attention, like I mentioned earlier already. So please make sure to get plenty of rest, get plenty of affection in whatever way that's possible, get plenty of water and healthy nutritional food, if that's possible again. But do your best, right? Whatever you can. Now, some other aspects in this new moon chart that I also would like to mention is Mars, because Mars is the ruler of Aries, and Mars is currently in Capricorn, aligning with Pluto and Jupiter in Capricorn. So we may feel impatient. So there's sort of like an impatience or even an obsessiveness right now about our career goals or social economic future. Of course, this all makes sense given what we're currently experiencing in the world. We're kind of like going into a place where we want to go into survival mode a little bit. And something suppressed desires that we're having could surface right now with this combination. So we will need to take action on those. And one way or another, it's really very much about that we've experienced these survival urges that can be very strong at this time, especially when it comes to our long-term goals and our public image or anything we think we have no control over. Because Pluto in Capricorn, right, is sort of like this wave that keeps coming back around feeling out of control around social structures, the government, our long-term goals, our careers, our structures that we have in place for our own ability to be self-sufficient in the world. So anything around that with Pluto, there's sort of this sense of like feeling in waves, either feeling disempowered or feeling very empowered. But it kind of like goes in and out, right? So ask yourself, could I acknowledge feeling out of control if that is present, right? I'm not saying that you are, but if that's present in any way, whether that's in a very tiny, minute way or in a very big way, could I acknowledge feeling out of control? And could I allow myself to feel it as much as it's actually there in this now moment without going off to look for it or creating any extra? And could I welcome or acknowledge wanting to be in control? And this is something that a lot of us probably will experience at this time, this wanting to be in control. And could I welcome or at least acknowledge how personal this feels? Because obviously these feelings that we're experiencing, what's coming up right now, feels very personal, that it's really impacting each one of us in some way. And could I simply decide, now that I've welcomed and acknowledged it, right? So when we're welcoming it, what that means is we're really just allowing it to be there. We're giving it space. So now that I've given it space and acknowledged that that's there for me, could I simply decide to set it all free, to simply let it go just for right now and just as best as I can? And remember, it's just a decision. This is just a decision. So feel free to use these questions. These are really, really powerful questions. If you are feeling scared, if you are feeling out of control, if you are feeling concerned about anything, use these 5 questions to help you get more centered and grounded and kind of like present again within yourself. They're very powerful. It really works very well. Now, on an individual level, we might put a lot of pressure on ourselves right now. Then collectively, this could potentially add up to intensified fears and tendencies towards a negative or pessimistic outlook on life. So as best as you can, focus on yourself. Be appropriately cautious and self-responsible, and stay very present and grounded in reality. And most of the time, almost 100% of the time, nothing is wrong. So just remember that most of the time, nothing is wrong. But we still want to be appropriately cautious and self-responsible and present and grounded in reality, because that is always helpful. Now, fear, most of the time, and you can call it fear, you can call it concern, you can call it nervousness, it's all the same, right? It's just various levels of how intense it feels for you. So fear, most of the time, only exists in the mind. We either imagine the worst case scenario, or we remember something that we would rather not experience again. And then what we do is we worry in the hopes that worrying, the energy of worrying, will make it feel like we're doing something to prevent whatever the worst case scenario is, or the bad future that we want to prevent from happening. So again, fears that stem from the past or an imaginary future are not real. They are not grounded in reality or the present moment. And this is very important. In order to really distinguish, what we're doing here, and to be really conscious and observant and how we're using the energies for ourselves. We want to be very discerning around, like, where is this coming from? Where is this concern or this worry or this nervousness or this fear coming from? Am I looking into the future to worst case scenarios, or am I kind of like thinking about something that's already happened in the past to me, to somebody else? Something that we've heard in the news today, yesterday, the day before. And are we creating the concern and worry and fear from those past or future places? Because that's not helpful. So there's a really wonderful author called Sailor Bob Adamson, who put it very well in his book title, What's Wrong with Right Now Unless You Think About It? And I think that's very funny because, of course, if you don't think, right, if you go beyond thinking and you're just kind of allowing yourself to be, to experience, to tune into the now moment, what's wrong with right now unless you think about it? So check to see what is real in the now moment, what is true, and be really exact about that. What is real in the now moment? What is true? What if I didn't imagine the worst? What if I allowed the past to be the past? And when I say past, anything that has happened up until now is already the past. So even something that happened a minute ago is already the past. So what if I could allow the past to be the past? What is actually so right now? And what does the now moment require of me? This very now moment, what does that require of me? And what perfectly predictable future would emerge from who I'm being in this very instant of time? So remember, the now moment creates our future. So if we are being conscious and centered and connected to the present moment, we create a much, much better future than when we're, floundering around in concern and worry and fear of something that's connected to the past or a worst case scenario future, right? So what perfectly predictable future would emerge from who I am being in this very instant of time? And what do I want to create? We really have to ask ourselves, and this is a really, really important question. What do I want to create? Each one of us, because each one of us does create the future. So what do I want to create? And don't worry about what other people are doing or not doing. Really focus on yourself. What do I want to create? And what if a new era is about to begin? What would that call on me to be and to become? Because, we only know what we think we already know. But what if it's completely different from what we're imagining? What if it's a completely different thing? And so there's a seed or a possibility here with this new moon in Aries. What if a new era is about to begin? What would that call on me to be, to become? Now, of course, trust plays a really big part in all of this, because trust is something that if we don't have it, it's an easy path to panic, right? So trust in your own capacity to take care of yourself and make smart decisions. Trust in your higher self to guide you and stir you in the direction that is in your best and highest interest at this time. And that accelerates your journey along your own evolutionary path. Remember, each one of us is on an evolutionary path. And whatever is happening right now, it is something that is supporting us to move forward on that evolutionary path. Trust in the life force, or simply life itself, to do what is required to return balance to the planet and its inhabitants. So trust, right? Very important. So how can we step into a place of trust? Because, obviously, it's easy to say trust is important and trust this and trust that. But how? How do I do that? If I'm scared, or if I'm, nervous, or if I'm feeling not well, if I'm feeling unhealthy, or if I'm feeling unsafe. How can we step into a place of trust, each one of us? See the bigger picture. Know that you're always okay. The physical realm is only a part of the journey. Perspective is everything, right? So knowing that we are, physically speaking, that's the body. But who we are is so much more than that. And that journey, that bigger journey, goes way beyond the physical experience. So see the bigger picture. Perspective is everything. Tune in, get in touch with your energy body, your feeling body, your physical body. And there's so much wisdom available from those places. Simply ask, listen, and receive. As we are practicing this, we get to be more trusting. We get to be able to trust more, because as we're doing these things, trust will be a byproduct of all of that. Another thing you can do, know thyself. Check to see what works and what doesn't work for you. Observe your reactions, your triggers. And then the thing that is connected to that is manage your feeling body. Be compassionate and kind with yourself and allow feelings to come up and move through, just like clouds in the sky, waves on the ocean. The feeling body is simply energy that moves through our physical body. These are sensations, and the mind then interprets these sensations that are moving through the physical body. But whatever the mind interprets is not always useful. If we just allow ourselves to simply feel the sensations without creating a story or without going into a place of like, this is because of this and this is what I need to do now because blah, blah, blah. If we're not adding to the feeling, but just letting ourselves feel the feeling and experience the sensation, then it will just go like clouds in the sky, like waves on the ocean. It will just move through us. Now, the last thing is keep the focus on yourself. I've already said that once, but it bears repeating. Be self-responsible and stay present within yourself. Connect with nature, engage in conscious breathing, etc., etc. So really look to see, what can I do for me? What can I do so that I can be responsible for what goes on in my body, in my world, in my environment? Who am I being? And stay really present with yourself. And manage, what you need to manage so that you can be present with yourself. And again, connecting with nature, engaging in conscious breathing, those are wonderful tools. All right, so last thing I want to mention is Saturn, the ruler of Capricorn. Since we have so many planets in Capricorn, the ruler of those planets is Saturn. And Saturn moves into Aquarius on March 21st, only 3 days before the new moon becomes exact. So we now feel a greater need for a cause. So let's hope it's a good one that benefits most of humanity or all of humanity. And this could also teach us that there is freedom and liberation in abiding by particular rules, right? Saturn is about rules, it's about limitations, it's about keeping things in check, and to kind of see that there's actually sometimes freedom in that. And we want to, with Saturn in Aquarius, we want to make sure that we avoid rigid thinking, because Aquarius is a mental energy. It has to do with the mind and with our visions for the world, for something larger than ourselves. It has to do with group consciousness. And so it's very important that we avoid rigid thinking, or that we get attached to something being exactly the way we think it needs to be. Now, if you want to know how Saturn's journey in Aquarius will impact you personally over the next 3 months, and then also from December 2020 until March 2023, feel free to join us for the next forecasting forum on April 6th. You can click below this video to register. There's also an early bird special that will be available until April 3rd, so take advantage of that if you can. And you can also register via my website, astrologercoach.com, if you scroll down to the Forecasting Forum countdown. Now, I also have an article on the subject of Saturn and Aquarius available on my website. There's going to be an excerpt available for the general public, and the whole article is available for my members. And if you want to become a member of my online community and get that entire article, lots of exclusive information, and a ton of other discounts and benefits in terms of like readings and courses and webinars and all that stuff, click on the link below this video to become a member. I will have something for you there. Or again, you can go to my website, astrologercoach.com, and on the homepage there will be also a page where you can look for memberships. All right, so let's turn our attention back to the new moon and sum it all up. Now, shifts obviously are happening everywhere. We're all experiencing that. We're all feeling that. And it's definitely global. It's time to develop some courage and awareness. And so you can ask yourself, where do I want to step up? And what if I were the master of my destiny and could keep my heart and mind open right here, right now? And if that were so, where would I choose to go next? And what might open up if once a day for the next 28 days, I tuned into myself and simply listened to the higher vibrations of my being? And this can be a really beautiful question to ask on a daily basis, because the more we can tune into our higher selves, into our higher vibration, the more we can become the inspired leaders that we need to be currently. Now, the highest expression of Aries energy is expressed when we lead others by example and inspiration. So people follow because they see our courage, they see our enthusiasm for life, and they want to be a part of that. So ask yourself, what if I dared to lead responsibly and with integrity? What if I were the one who inspired others? What if I were the one who teaches compassion, connection to the divine? What single simple action step could I take right now in support of someone's healing process, if that were true? So as best as you can, be patient and brave. Listen to your inner voice and bring your unique, passionate human self to the world. Remember that each of us makes this journey in our own way, in our own time. So focus on yourself, your own path, your own truth, rather than one that lies beyond your control. Anything that's beyond our control right now is not something we want to focus on, because that will feel disempowering. I guarantee you. The more you focus on stuff that's beyond your control, the more disempowered you're going to feel. So focus on the things that you actually have control over, which is yourself, your reactions, your responses, your actions, your way to connect with yourself. Now, obviously, we're also in springtime right now, because we just had the spring equinox as well. So spring is not just for spring cleaning or dwelling. It's an excellent time to cleanse on all levels. So ask yourself, what changes have already been in the back of my mind for weeks now? And what first step looks inviting when it comes to this cleansing process? And then remember, the ultimate goal of this new moon is to tap into our inner warrior, and the wounded inner warrior as well, the healthy inner warrior, the holistic inner warrior, the mature, protective warrior, rather than the shadow warrior who exploits and destroys. So courageous rather than combative, assertive rather than aggressive, human rather than would-be superhero. Right? So just allow yourself to be human. Now, if you have an ascendant or any other planets in 2 to 6 degrees of Aries, Libra, Capricorn, or Cancer, then this new moon will impact you more strongly. But even if you don't have planets or points in those degrees and signs, take a look at your birth chart and look to see, where does 4 degrees of Aries land in my birth chart? because that house placement of the new moon will indicate which area of your life is most impacted for the next 28 days, and also what area of life requires maybe some new beginnings for these next 28 days. So you can also check out my 30-minute class on how to read your birth chart. If you don't know how to look that up in your natal chart, get free access via my homepage at AstrologerCoach.com. You just need to scroll down on the homepage until you find a window that says free class, and then you click on that, and that will give you access to that 30-minute class. Now, let's talk about intentions. These are very important since this is a new moon in Aries. The best time to set intentions for this month's moon cycle is done always after the new moon becomes exact, and definitely not during a moon void of course phase. So we always want to avoid moon void of course phases. Feel free to read up on that on my website if you don't know why that's the case. There, I have an article on the moon void of course phases in my article section. So this month we have almost 46 hours to set intentions. That's quite a long time because the first 48 hours after a new moon is the most potent time to set our intentions. And we have, without interruptions, we have 46 hours after the new moon between 5:28 a.m. on March 24th and 3:16 a.m. on March 26th. All of this, of course, is New York time, Eastern time in the US. And if you live outside the Eastern time zone, East Coast time, and converting time zones isn't your thing, I suggest joining my Facebook fan page, or you can also follow me on Twitter, or both. I will be posting reminders on March 24th, 25th, and 26th to let you know when it is time to set your intentions. Okay, so once you read these posts, simply just set your intentions at that time when you read the post. So for more information about setting intentions, go to my website, go to my blog page, and then look for astrology articles or the tag New Moon Intentions on the right-hand side of the blog page if you're looking at it from a computer. And I will also have a link below this video, so you can just click on that link as well. And that article will give you a little bit more of an idea of how to set these intentions, how to best do that so they're most effective. All right, so to sign up for my free monthly newsletter, feel free to go to my homepage at AstrologerCoach.com, or you can also just email us at info@AstrologerCoach.com and just write newsletter in the subject line. The newsletter is basically sent out once or twice a month with special offers, with my videos, announcements about webinars or courses that I do or retreats or whatever is going on in my business that needs mentioning, that will be part of the newsletter. Now, if you have any general questions about astrology or about this new moon, then feel free to reach out to info@astrologercoach.com. I'm happy to answer questions via email. If it's something more of personal nature that requires of me to pull up your birth chart, I will ask you to book a reading on my website at astrologercoach.com. In the services section, or I think also on the homepage, there is a window where you can just click on one-on-one sessions with Sonja, and that will get you to the services page as well. Or if you don't want to do a one-on-one session with me, then you can also ask questions connected to what's coming up within the next 30 to 40 days during the next monthly forecasting forum on April 6th. So again, we will focus on Saturn in Aquarius and the Jupiter-Pluto conjunction in Capricorn. So if this is of interest to you, to know how this is impacting you personally, definitely join us. Please remember that I had to change the date of the monthly forecasting forum. It is now on April 6th in the late afternoon at 5:30 p.m. Eastern Time. So if you haven't taken note of that yet, please remember that that's the case. If you sign up or register for the monthly forecasting forum and you've never done the forum before, you will get access to the next members full moon video when you register, and the link to register is below this video or on my homepage via the monthly forecasting forum countdown as I mentioned already previously. And again, there's an early bird special that will be available until April 3rd at midnight. Okay, so that's it. That's it for today. Now have a fantastic new moon. My members will see me in 2 weeks around the time of the full moon, which will also be a super moon, by the way. So we can take a look at how far we've come since setting our new moon intentions, and also what this all means for us to be engaging in a super moon again. And then everyone else who is currently not a member will see me in about 4 weeks from now with the next new moon, which will be in Taurus. Now stay healthy and do your best to keep raising your own frequencies. Stay safe, and much love and many blessings. This is Astrologer Coach Sonja Francis. Goodbye.